How much of a language do you actually have to learn in order to be able to travel effectively? And the answer is not too much. Some people freak out, they freeze, they think they have to learn conjugations, they go on Duolingo, and I'm not trying to berate Duolingo in any way, shape, or form, but they get overwhelmed thinking that they have to pass so many levels before they can free themselves to travel. This is simply not true. Take it from me, I have traveled to 16 countries outside of the United States, and I certainly don't know the bulk of every language that I have ever spoken, but there are 12 phrases that you need to learn in order to feel at least somewhat comfortable. And if you know these phrases, it will be extremely helpful. You'll be able to get very, very far, and you'll be treated like royalty because it shows that you have made an effort. Without further ado, let's get into it. Some of these are going to seem super basic, especially if you have taken any Spanish or if you've been in the United States. A lot of times we hear a lot of Spanish, and so we already know these basics, but I'm going to go over them anyway so that you know how simple this really is and that you truly do not need to know a huge amount of the language at all. The first one is hello, which is hola. And before you fast forward through this part, let me just tell you why this is useful, not just so that you know the word, okay? It's so that you understand the etiquette when you are traveling. In a lot of places that we travel to outside of the United States, if you go into a shop, for example, and you just start asking questions, it is seen as extremely rude. It is not a polite way to be. In the US, it doesn't matter. At a lot of places you go to, you just walk to a store and say, I'm looking for this, I'm looking for that. Do you have this? Do you have that? And it's just seen as commonplace, especially in big cities. Outside of the US, it is very rude. So make sure that you are accustomed to practicing hola. You walk into your house, you see your puppy, hola, hola puppy. Just get used to it because it is very, very polite. The next word, of course, is please. Now, you might hear the word porfa thrown around as you travel to any sort of Spanish speaking country. That is short for por favor. I'm sure you know por favor, but don't go around saying porfa if you are a brand new beginning Spanish speaker because people are going to assume that you speak a lot more than you do. So, por favor, stick to that. Thank you is gracias. Now, if you want to get a little bit fancy and say gracias for something, there are two words for in Spanish. It's por and para, por and para. And I'm not going to go into the details of that right now, but after you are saying gracias, if you want to say for something, you say por, gracias por, gracias por. But for now, just learning gracias and getting used to saying that is great. The next word is yes. Now, if you see this in written language, sometimes you'll say sí, which is the word for yes, with an accent, and sometimes you will see it without an accent. Technically speaking, sí with an accent means yes. Sí without an accent means if. So make sure that if you are dealing with a written situation, which I don't think will be too often the case, that you are using it with an accent. I am not expecting you to be writing in Spanish in any way, but I wanted to explain this to you. And then no is no. It's great. The phrase for a little bit is extremely useful because when you start saying hello to people, hola, and they say, oh, habla español, you don't want them to think that you speak a whole bunch when you don't. And so you don't want to say yes, like, see, I speak Spanish, because if you speak a little tiny bit, that is going to be confusing. When you're there asking questions, you don't know how to respond. And then if you say no, that's not true either because you do speak a little bit. All you have to do is like memorize these little phrases and you'll be good. You want to say a little bit, and that is un poco, un poco. Sometimes you'll hear poquito, poquito. That's ito and ita at the end of a word makes that thing smaller. So if you want to say a super little bit, you can say un poquito. You could just say poquito if you want to, but un poquito is a little bit more accurate. But un poco is just fine. Here and there are very useful. If you're taking a ride anywhere, if you're in an Uber, if you're in a Lyft, and you're fine to be dropped off right here, you can say not just here, which is aquí. You can say that if you want to, but you want to say here, please. That makes it more useful. And we just learned please. So now you're combining words and you're getting into phrases, and it's fantastic. So aquí por favor, aquí por favor. And then you can say afterwards, gracias. There is also very useful because if you're looking for something and people are pointing, you can try to point to the same building and say there. Or if you are in an Uber or a Lyft and you don't want to be dropped off where you're currently being dropped off, you can say, allá, Allá, por favor. There, please. If you want to question whether something is in fact over there, you can say, allá, allá. Really? There is allá and over there is allí, but saying allá is completely fine. It's gonna fly everywhere you go. ¿Dónde está el baño? ¿Dónde está el baño? Where is the bathroom? Everybody needs to know where the bathroom is. And then what's great is that once you learn the word where in that whole phrase, you can say where is anything. And the word for where is donde. Here's little Molly. She wants to know dónde está el baño, don't you? Yes, you do. So as I was saying, the word donde can be very useful because you can literally just point on a brochure and say donde, and everybody's going to understand exactly what it is that you're talking about. Next is the phrase excuse me, and that's when you want to get somebody's attention. Perdón, perdón, pardon me, like excuse me, pardon me, perdón. And if you combine this with some phrases that we've already learned today, then you are on the road to etiquette and politeness. For example, if you want to walk into a store and get somebody's attention, you would say, hola, perdón, hello, excuse me. And then you would say, ¿dónde? Whatever, where's the thing that I'm looking for? Or if you want to say how much, we're going to go into that later in a bonus round. The next phrase is very important, and that is, I don't understand. I do not understand. And there are two different ways to say this in Spanish. You can say, no comprendo, no comprendo, I don't understand. And that's literally, I don't understand, instead of I don't understand you or I don't understand it. I don't understand, no comprendo. You can also say, no entiendo, no entiendo. And no entiendo is probably used more often than no comprendo, but either are just fine to use. Whichever one feels more comfortable for you to learn is fine. And the final 12th phrase is, do you speak English? Habla español. Oh my God, wrong language. Habla inglés. Habla inglés. Habla inglés. If you want to be really polite about it, you could say, excuse me, please, do you speak English? If you want to be super polite about it. So, perdón, por favor, habla inglés, habla inglés. And that is a really great polite way to put it all together and to ask somebody if they speak English. Sometimes it can be a little bit embarrassing if you're going somewhere and you don't want to admit that you don't know the language, but you really are hoping that they speak English too. You don't want to come across as the rude American who just expects everybody to speak English. This is a really great way to ask if somebody speaks English without coming across as entitled. So, hola, perdón, por favor, habla Inglés, and you'll be just fine. Now we have 3 bonus phrases if you're feeling like you want to push yourself a little bit. Before I get into these 3 bonus phrases, let me know that you've enjoyed the content by giving me a thumbs up, by subscribing, asking a question below. Let me know, are you planning to travel anytime soon? Now that we've gone through the dozen phrases that you want to know in Spanish, we have 3 more bonus phrases for you, and these will make life a lot easier. So the first is how much. Cuánto, cuánto. And you want to make sure that you use the T in there, cuánto, and not cuando, because cuando means when. That can be a little bit more advanced. That's not a necessary word to know, but cuánto is very useful. So you go into a shop and you say, hola, perdón, hello, pardon me, cuánto, cuánto, and you could literally point at anything. If you want to get fancy about it, you can say cuánto cuesta. How much does this cost? Cuánto cuesta. The next word is the word this. You can point at a whole bunch of different things and say this without knowing how to say those things in Spanish. So the word this is extremely useful. And the most generic term for this is esto. Esto. Technically, depending on whether you're looking at something that is a feminine noun versus a masculine noun, it would be esta, but you don't have to know that. It's a general term for this is esto. So you could point at the thing, say, ¿Cuánto cuesta esto? How much does this cost? Or you could say esto, point at it and say, ¿Cuánto? This, how much? That's going to be fine. She is really wanting to be in front of the camera today. I swear, it's how can you not love this little face? Look at that little snaggletoothie. Yes, you're so cute. The final thing we're very close to being done is good. Good. Good can be 2 different things. It can be bueno, bueno, or it can be bien, depending on the situation. If a server, for example, is coming up to you after having given you your food and says, oh, ¿cómo va? Blah, 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 blah. Chances are they're asking you, hey, how is everything? And if you want to say good, you can say bien, That's a perfectly fine thing to say. But if you mess up and don't remember the word for bien, if you say bueno, it's going to be completely fine. Learn these phrases in any language and you are going to do just fine. Everybody's going to think that you are polite. You will get treated very, very well without having to learn the whole stinking language. It will give you a little bit of confidence too. It will show people that you've put in an effort and that you're not being an entitled a-hole, frankly. They're little stepping stones where you can kind of mix and match the phrases. And also, it provides a foundation for other things that you're going to learn. So I hope that these phrases were helpful for you. Please give this video a thumbs up. If you want to know some very, very beginner basics of Spanish, then take a look at this video right here. And I will see you in the next video. Until then, ciao.